6 years ago, my wife said, I don't love you anymore, and my relationship fell apart. I lost everything, the house, the business, and almost my life. And with my current wife, Rosie, the same thing almost happened, and it came down to a lack of communication. A lack of communication that causes arguments, it causes disagreements, it causes resentment with the person that you love. So, if you'd like to improve your communication and reignite your relationship, avoid arguments, avoid resentment, and ultimately have that connection with your significant other or anyone in your life, then this video is for you. In this podcast, I'll be covering the clearing conversation, which is a 6-step process with 6 R's. Yep, the letter R, that tells you exactly what you can do to communicate effectively and to get your partner to understand you by first allowing them to be understood. This is something most men and most humans are never taught. So buckle up, listen, and get some value out of this. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tony Versick. I'm the founder of the Empowered Man Movement, and I help men take back their power and have balance between business, health, and their relationships. So strap in and get ready to improve your communication. What is up, legend? Welcome to the Empowered Man podcast, where we teach you how to reconnect with your wife while also having balance between business and the rest of your life. My name is Tony Versick. I'm the founder of the Empowered Man Movement, and it's time to take back your power. So my first serious relationship broke down because I didn't know how to communicate. I thought I knew how to communicate, but I realized very quickly after it broke down that no one ever taught me how. My father, from what I can remember, would yell at my brother and I. He was an angry man, not because he was a bad man, because no one taught him how to deal with the stress and pressure of life, the stress and pressure of being a man. And no one taught me either. So 6, 7 years ago, my ex said to me, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think that we're going to be able to have a future together. And this was 6 months before she left me. Instead of listening to her, I just said, don't talk like that. Don't say things like that. And I completely ignored the situation. 6 months later, she came home, sat down, said, I don't love you anymore. And I took it as this massive shock. I thought, how is this possible? I have a business. I have a successful career. We just bought a house together. We have everything we've dreamed of. And I had my whole future planned out. How is this possible? Blaming her for not communicating with me. Blaming her for not saying, hey, things aren't working. Hey, I don't know if this is going to work, when she clearly did. But I forgot that. And it came down to a lack of communication. So with my current wife, Rosie, she's in the background if you're watching me, I decided after that relationship ended, and this wasn't quick, I had 3 months of drinking and pain and depression and hating myself for what happened, thinking I'd lost everything. After that 3 months, I made a vow. I made a promise to myself that I would improve my communication because I realized that was the cause of the breakdown of my relationship. And you might be able to relate to this. If you are in a relationship or your relationship has ended, you will know how often you can fall into arguments and the trap of being disconnected, of resenting the person you're supposed to love. The first few months, the first few years of being with someone, it's all sunshine and rainbows. But then you start getting triggered by little things. Dishes in the sink, the house being a mess, the way they speak and the tone of their voice, and we start to get triggered at each other. And we start to react. And you might yell or you might get angry or you might hold things in and bottle it up. And this lack of communication creates a lack of connection. And this lack of connection causes marriages and relationships to fall apart. And it causes children to be raised in broken homes. The communication in your relationship has a direct correlation to the impact you have in business, to the amount of money you make, to the happiness in your life. I remember the times in my business where I was doing really well. I was crushing it and making money. But if I got into an argument with Rosie, everything felt meaningless and it felt difficult to just get up and show up as a businessman. And I'm sure you can relate to this too. So this all came to a front with me and my wife, Rosie, one time where I decided enough was enough. I felt like she wasn't supporting me. I worked hard every single day to make money and to put food on the table. Yet, I felt like she didn't understand that. I felt like she didn't care. I felt like she didn't look after the house. I felt like she wasn't being the wife that I needed. And I felt like she wasn't supporting me. So I went down to Bondi Icebergs here in Australia. And I made a decision. I made a decision to end the relationship. This isn't working. She doesn't care. She doesn't love me. blah, 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 blah. And a mentor of mine called me and he asked me how I was going. And I explained the situation. He said, Tony, shut the fuck up. All you're talking about is you. You're upset. You keep getting into arguments. You don't feel supported. You don't feel loved. You don't feel like she's giving you what you need. What about her? And this may sound glaringly simple, but the penny dropped. A light bulb went off in my head and I realized, just like my previous partner who left because she did not feel loved, she did not feel like there was a future with me, that I got to take responsibility for the quality of my relationship. It's not fair, but the reality is, as a man, as a leader, as a king, the quality of your life is directly correlated to you. You are the one who decides the quality of your relationships. You're the one who decides the quality of your business, and you are the one who decides whether or not this relationship stays together. Now, you can do everything right and your partner could still leave. You can do everything right and your business could still fail. You could do everything right and things could still fall apart, but you could put your hand on your heart and say, I've done everything I can to step up in all of these areas of health, wealth, and relationships. And if you can do that, there is no blame upon yourself because you've taken responsibility. So I went home and instead of ending it with my wife, I sat down with her and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no framework on how to communicate. I'm going to share the exact framework with you today that I've created, but I had none. And I just sat down and I said, Rosie, I know this is going to sound weird, but I want to know how I can support you, how I can appreciate you. I want to know how I can make you feel loved. Now, these are the things that I wanted. This is what I wanted, but I said, this is what I want from you. And she said, what are you talking about? So my response was, like, is there anything I could do better? Is there anything that I'm not doing? Like, tell me what you think of me. Tell me what I can do better. And she's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. And as soon as I heard the word fine, I was like, shit, I need to work on this. I get to work on this. I said, no, tell me, what can I do? And she's like, are you sure? I said, yeah. And she spent the next 30 minutes berating me and telling me all the things that I'm doing wrong, all the ways that I don't make her feel loved, all the ways that I don't make her feel appreciated. And in my head, I'm thinking, fuck you. I'm thinking, are you serious? How could you possibly think that and feel that way considering all the stuff that I do? But I made a decision that I was going to give her what she needed. This is what I didn't give my ex. And she went on for 30 minutes. And at the end, I said, is there anything else? And she said, no. And I said, thank fuck in my head, right? And that was the first time I had a clearing conversation, because what happened there was she told me that she didn't feel appreciated. She told me that she didn't feel loved because I gave her the opportunity to. You see, arguments and disagreements and a lack of communication, it can't happen if one of those two people is feeling loved and appreciated, because by definition, if you're feeling loved and appreciated, the partner will feel loved and appreciated and vice versa. So if you're arguing and there's a lack of communication and connection and intimacy, it means one of you gets to step up. And you can either wait for your partner to step up or you can step up. So from that was born the clearing conversation, which I'm about to share with you right now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If you're listening on the podcast, there'll be a link in the show notes. So the clearing conversation is very, very simple. It's a 6-step process, actually a 7-step process. And the first step is to request. So you got to make the decision that I'm going to have one of these conversations with my partner. Why would you want to have this conversation? To understand them, to respect them, to appreciate them, and to get them to feel like you care. Because if they feel like you care, human nature is going to make them want to care for you as well. So the first step is to request. You simply ask, do you mind if we have a clearing conversation? This is such a powerful question to ask someone, especially if there is tension in your relationship. You don't say, we need to talk. You don't say, we need to have a conversation. You simply say, do you mind if we have a clearing conversation? Do you mind if we have a chat? And you don't just say that, because that can cause stories to show up, like, what have I done? Or why is he saying this? You add in why that conversation will be important or powerful or relevant for the person you're having it with. So you would say, do you mind if we have a clearing conversation? I know that sounds weird. It's all about framing and language. However, I've realized you deserve better. Do you mind if we have a clearing conversation? I know that sounds weird, but I've noticed that like you deserve to be happier and I need to step up and I'd like your support with being that guy. So you attach the benefit for why this conversation is important to them into the question. And if they say no or they're not ready, you don't push the issue. You don't do this when you're in the middle of an argument. You do this when it's nice and cool and nice and calm and you ask the question. The request is the first step. The second step is responsibility. And for this exercise, you want to brain dump what you did or did not do. You want to brain dump the things you have done in the relationship and the things you haven't done. So you get out a pen and paper, you do this before the conversation, and you write down all the things I've done. I've yelled at her. I've been an asshole. I've worked too much. I've been a stress head. My family's walking on eggshells. And the things you didn't do. I haven't bought her flowers in a while. She used to love that. I haven't taken her out on a date. And you start to brain dump all the things you have done and all the things you haven't done. And if she said yes to the conversation, you simply say, I would like to take responsibility for my behavior and the stories I've created around this behavior. I'd like to take responsibility for getting angry and triggered all the time. I'd like to take responsibility for not stepping up as the leader you and the kids deserve. I'd like to take responsibility for my lack of support. I judge you too much. I behave like an asshole. I communicate poorly. I don't smile at you anymore. We had a client at Empowered Man who went through this. He said, my wife said I don't smile at her anymore. So it really pissed me off. And I said, why don't you just fucking smile more? Right? So you request to have the conversation, then you take responsibility. And the third step is the realization that comes with the responsibility. So it's not enough to just say, I'm sorry and I take responsibility for my lack of support. Well, why is that important? Why is that lack of support important and why you bring it up? And this is where you share the realization that you've had by doing this exercise. And this is fucking deep work for a man, especially when you're busy or have a business. You simply say something like, I've realized that I haven't supported you for years. Like I've worked hard and made money, but I haven't given you the emotional support you need. And this is the realization. And that's not good enough. You deserve better. You deserve to be supported. You deserve to be loved. And I've realized that I need to step up. I've realized that you need me to step up. So when you combine this responsibility, this is what I'm taking responsibility for, with the realization, it's radical ownership. Now, I know what some guys will be thinking. You might be thinking this as you're listening to this video. It's like, yeah, but that's not fair. What about all the shit she does? And what about all the shit she's done? It's not about that. It's not about that. Because it's you being the bigger man and it's you stepping up and being able to go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to step up. I'm going to lead this conversation. I'm going to be the man for my wife or for my partner or for my family. And I'm going to lead through realization and responsibility, through radical ownership. Once you've shared what you're responsible for and what you've realized, and you can write these things down, the next step is the response. So once you've taken ownership and apologized, and you do want to apologize, you say, I apologize for all of this. I just want to say that I get to take responsibility. Then you ask them and you wait for their response. You ask for their side of the story. And you can ask questions like, what comes up for you when you hear me say all this? How do you feel about this? What are you thinking about? So you can say this. I know I just brain dumped a lot of stuff on you. I know it's a lot to take on board, but I'd love to know how you feel. A great question here is, I'd love to understand. I would love to understand your perspective. I would love to understand your point of view. I would love to know what you're thinking and what you're feeling right now. And they might say, I don't know. They might say it's too much. And you calmly and patiently say, I understand. I understand. Powerful words for your partner. I understand. Take some time. Take some time. When you're ready, just let me know how you feel. And they're probably going to open up. They're going to open up to you. And if they do open up to you, you go to the fourth or the fifth R, which is to repeat. So they're going to give you the answers. I feel relieved. I feel like you actually care for once. I feel like you know me. You listen. You open your ears and you listen. You don't interrupt. You listen to what they're saying. You look them in the eyes and then you repeat. You repeat back what they've said to you. And these are the magic words here. What I have heard you say. What I have heard you say. What I have heard you say is, you haven't felt appreciated for 10 years. What I've heard you say is, you feel unsafe when I yell around the kids. What I've heard you say is you miss our date nights and the way we used to connect. What I've heard you say is we don't have enough sex. What I've heard you say is, and you repeat back. You repeat back what they've said to you, and then you ask how questions. So you repeat back what they said, but you add a how. If you say, what I've heard you say is you don't feel loved, you repeat that back to her. What I've heard you say is you don't feel loved. How can I make you feel more loved? What I've heard you say is you haven't felt appreciated for years. First of all, that's not good enough. That's on me, babe. How can I make you feel more appreciated? What I've heard you say is that we argue too much. Okay, how can we come together? How can I step up so that I don't trigger you and that I'm calmer? How can I step up in that area? And you ask how. What do you need from me? What do you need to feel understood, safe, and secure? Because every partner wants to feel respected, understood, safe, and secure. And the last two steps are simple. Recommit. So you've heard her say something, you've heard the person say something. Share what you are committed to changing and taking action on after this conversation. So I've heard you say that you don't feel loved anymore. And how can I fix that? Okay, well, I'd like you to date me again. Cool. I'm going to commit to take you on a date night once a week. What I've heard you say is you don't feel appreciated around the house and like I don't do enough. That may trigger you because you bring home the bacon. How can I support you more? Well, I need help putting the kids to sleep. All right, what I'm going to commit to moving forward is 3 nights a week, I'm going to put the kids to sleep. Is that okay for you? And you recommit, and you don't just say you're going to do shit. Whatever you say you're going to do, you do. You put it in your calendar, just like a work meeting, and you give it the importance and the value that it deserves. Because when I started dating Rosie, I used to take her out and wine and dine her and give her what she needed. I don't do that often anymore. She deserves that now. We've got a kid, obviously. I've got a business, but that stopped happening. Why? Because of the standards have slipped. I get to recommit. And the final step is to reassess. You don't just want to have this conversation and never have it again. You want to set markers and check-ins to follow up and give them permission to pull you up on it when you're not following through. So you finish the conversation like this. All right, cool. So this is what I'm committed to. This is what I've heard you say. Can we have a meeting? Not a meeting. Can we get together once a week and talk about this? You can tell me how I'm doing. I can tell you how you're doing. And we can have a conversation about how you're feeling loved, how you're feeling appreciated, and what you need. And at the end of this conversation, if you want to, you can share what you want and you can share what you need if you feel the need to. But what often happens is when you do this and when you follow through on your commitments, your partner will give you more of what you want. When I did this with Rosie, we became more intimate. We made lots more love. We had a lot more fun together and we started enjoying life again because we weren't coming at each other. We weren't arguing. We weren't resentful. Every time a problem came up, we had a clearing conversation. We'd get into an argument about something. A few hours later, let's have a clearing conversation. This is what I get to take responsibility for. I shouldn't have raised my voice, babe. I shouldn't have yelled at you. I've realized yet again that I keep doing this and it's not okay. What do you need from me? What can I do for you? Cool. What I've heard you say is blah, blah, blah. How can I do that? Okay, next time I feel triggered, I'll do that. This is what I'm committed to. Let's catch up next week and have a conversation. This is work, my friends. And this clearing conversation will change your life. The first step is to request. Do you mind if we have a clearing conversation? The second step is to take responsibility for whatever you can take ownership for. What you did, what you didn't do, why that realization is important, and you apologize for it and you take ownership. You don't have to say, I'm sorry. You just say, I'm taking ownership. This is my shit. You ask for their response. You ask how they're feeling, what they're thinking. You want to understand them. And then you repeat back what you've heard them say, because every human being, every woman, every man wants to be heard. They want to be listened to. And often when we argue, we don't listen. Then you recommit to what you're going to do moving forward, and you reassess regularly. And this conversation script will change your life. It will change your life forever if you do it. It will eliminate arguments. It will bring up things that you weren't even aware of. Your partner or your wife will tell you, I don't feel loved. Instead of the mind games and the mind reading where you're waiting to find out what's wrong, you say, what's wrong? And they say, I'm fine. And you did something like 2 days ago that they've been holding on to. That won't happen anymore because you can communicate about feelings and thoughts. And that's what causes marriages and relationships to break down, is we don't communicate. We start feeling stressed. We start feeling unloved. We start feeling underappreciated. Our partner does something we don't like. And instead of communicating it calmly, instead of just sharing what's going on and dealing with it in the moment, we hold it in. And then it comes out, and it comes out at the kids. It comes out at the wife, and it comes out in business. And relationships affect everything. They affect your health, your stress, and your business. So that is the Clearing Conversation script. I hope you got some value from that. I'm going to put a link in the show notes if you're listening. If you're on YouTube, it'll be down below this video. And get this started. Your action step for this video, if you want to accept it, your mission is to book in one of these conversations. Plan it with someone that you love and follow this script. I hope that helps. Go and clear. Go and communicate. It's exactly what you deserve and what your family deserves. Take care. Now it's time for you to get access to the action plan, personalized, customized coaching, and the exact strategy we've used to help over 500 men take back their power and take back control using the Empowered Man method. If you want to reignite the spark in your marriage, become a better father, and ultimately have it all in life, then go to empoweredbusinessman.com/group to join our free community. The link will be in the show notes, or just go to empoweredbusinessman.com/group right now to become a part of the Empowered Man movement.